Welcome to the deep dive. Sometimes a single image just stops you in your tracks, right? It can really capture something deeply human, but also, well, shape how we see the world. Today, we're diving deep into one such image, the 2024 World Press Photo of the Year. It's an image that resonated globally, but it's also kicked off a really critical conversation about visual storytelling itself. The photo, it's by Reuters photographer Mohammed Salem, titled "A Palestinian Woman Embraces the Body of Her Niece." It's a tough scene, and it's Abu Mamar holding her 5-year-old niece, Sally, who was killed in an Israeli air raid. It was taken back on October 17th, 2023, at Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis. Just chaos, families searching for loved ones, a truly heart-wrenching moment. You've probably seen it. I mean, it went viral, right? Circulating everywhere on social media, became this powerful visual documenting what many Palestinians have been sharing as evidence of genocide. It definitely sticks with you. But we're not just going to, look at the image. We want to peel back the layers. Look at the processes of power structures behind why this image was chosen, and maybe more importantly, how we all interpret it. Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah, exactly. And for this dive, we're really leaning on this quite powerful piece, an opinion piece from Al Jazeera. It's written by Neelika Jayawardane. She's an associate professor of English at York-Oswego. And her analysis, it offers a really critical take on the photo's selection and, frankly, what it implies about how we understand things, how history gets built through pictures.
Right. And before we get into the critique itself, it feels really important to talk about Mohammed Salem, the photographer. He's from Gaza, and the source really emphasizes he's working under, well, horrific, dangerous conditions, is the quote. And his reaction to winning, apparently very humble. He said it was not a photo to celebrate, but he appreciated the recognition, the chance to get the image seen more widely. So Salih's story gets out there. And the article itself says he's more than deserving of the recognition, absolutely, given the risks.
Absolutely. But, and this is where it gets interesting, while totally acknowledging Salem's merit, the source's main critique focuses on something it calls decontextualization through cropping. Now that's cropping, literally like trimming the photo, but also metaphorically.
Okay, so cropping in two ways.
Yeah. The argument is that visual stories in the news, especially the ones that win big awards like World Press Photo, they aren't just objective snapshots, they're constructed. And those construction processes, they tend to reflect existing power structures. They often end up presenting history in a way that, well, kind of supports the status quo rather than challenging it. It's about what's left out.
That's a huge idea, that an image isn't just taken, but made, selected. And those choices have weight. It makes you wonder, what if there was another version of this exact moment? Taken by Salem, too, but telling a slightly different story.
That's exactly the point the source raises. Because there is another photo, same photographer, same moment, slightly different angle. And in that other shot, you see Inas Abu Mamar's face clearly. The article describes it as a naked expression of distress. Her mouth is open, screaming. It's raw, uncontainable horror.
Wow. Okay, so very different from the winning one where her face is hidden.
Completely different. In the winning photo, her head's bowed, face buried in her arm. The article argues this makes her grief seem contained, almost safe for the viewer, not that uncontained, roaring suffering.
So a small change in angle, maybe a slight crop, just totally shifts the feeling. Maybe it makes it easier for people to look at, less confronting.
Precisely. And it's not just her face. The other photo, the uncropped one, it shows more context. To the left, there's this plastic chair piled high with white body bags. You also see the leg and shoe of a man, maybe a medic standing nearby, a witness.
Body bags, right there in the frame.
Yeah. And the source argues those elements, especially the body bags, they would have alluded to genocide. They stop you from seeing it as just a singular loss. An isolated ahistorical moment.
Instead, it connects it to something much bigger, much more systematic.
Exactly. By hiding her face, containing the grief, the piece suggests the winning image lets viewers project their own ideas onto her. And it maybe aligns with what the source calls safe Orientalist tropes.
Orientalist tropes. Can you break that down a bit? What does the source mean by that?
Sure. So Orientalism, in critical theory, is about how Western cultures often portray non-Western ones, especially from the Middle East, in ways that are well simplified, often exotic, sometimes passive or submissive. It reinforces stereotypes instead of showing complexity. So here, the article suggests that by showing her grief as contained, face hidden, it might let Western viewers project assumptions. Maybe even think about her supposed oppression within her own culture.
Rather than focusing solely on the immediate cause of her suffering from the air raid.
Right. It potentially distracts or allows the viewer to fit the image into pre-existing, maybe biased frameworks instead of forcing them to confront the raw reality of that specific moment and its cause.
That's incredibly thought-provoking, how a seemingly small visual choice can carry so much baggage. So we've got the literal cropping, removing those contextual elements like the body bags. But you mentioned metaphorical cropping too. How does that work? How is the image cropped from its history?
Okay, yeah, this is where the critique goes even deeper. The source talks about the materiality of that history being strategically left out, meaning the whole devastating context in Gaza isn't really visible in that single isolated frame. The millions displaced, the starvation, the tens of thousands killed under siege, all that is absent.
And by leaving that out,
The photo, when presented alone, can end up reinforcing what the author calls a particular type of liberal politics, a way of framing it as conflict where you can insist on seeing both sides even if the power dynamics are completely skewed.
right, the both sides argument. And does removing that history make it easier to maintain that stance? Does it create a kind of distance?
That's exactly the argument. It lets viewers feel sympathy, sure. I mean, the suffering is undeniable, but without confronting the systematic nature of it, the genocidal horror, as the source puts it. That deeper context might force a moral reckoning, maybe even compel action. But without it, you can feel sad, but stay neutral, insulated from the harder truths.
And the source connects this directly to how the conflict is often framed.
Yes, it claims this elimination of context is crucial for how Israel justifies its actions in Gaza. It shapes a narrative that tends to ignore, or at least downplay, the 75 years of dispossession, occupation, imprisonment without trial, torture, daily brutality, and slow genocide. The article points out how mainstream media often starts the clock, saying Israel's actions began, quote, in response to the attack by the militant group Hamas on October 7.
Implying it was just a reaction, not part of a much longer, ongoing history.
Precisely. It effectively cuts off decades of prior context, creating a starting point that's convenient for one side of the narrative.
Wow. So the framing, the starting point of the story, is itself a form of cropping, according to the source. That really broadens the discussion beyond just this one photo. It raises questions about the whole ecosystem, right?
Yeah.
Awards, media, whose stories get chosen and how?
Exactly. And the source critiques the award ecosystem itself. It argues that big photography awards often end up favoring images that, maybe unintentionally, silence far more than they reveal. Images that are, quote, cleansed, commodified, and social media appropriate, meaning they're easy to share, easy to digest, and don't necessarily include too much dangerous, difficult to digest context.
Why? To avoid alienating people or challenging established views too much.
That seems to be the implication. A preference for images that evoke empathy, yes, but maybe not the kind of deep understanding that requires confronting uncomfortable truths or power structures.
And the source also brings up accusations of direct pressure on Palestinian journalists, right? Trying to discredit their work.
It does. It explicitly mentions accusations that Israel's foreign ministry uses scare tactics to discredit Palestinian photojournalists as Hamas sympathizers and collaborators. Gives the example of Yusuf Masood, another Palestinian photojournalist who won an award back in February. Apparently, an Israeli consulate spokesperson claimed he had links to Hamas even prior knowledge of the October 7th attack.
Which the source dismisses.
Yeah, calls it a cheap tactic to delegitimize their work. And it draws a contrast. It points out how, say, white European photographers like Massimo Barudi have been praised for embedding with non-state groups elsewhere. But Palestinian photojournalists documenting their own reality in Gaza, they often get labeled Hamas sympathizers, despite the immense risks they take.
That sounds like a serious double standard. What's the impact of that? Does it silence people?
Well, the reported effect, according to the source, is pretty significant. It claims this pressure led global news outlets to rely more heavily on established corporate media, which effectively ends up erasing and discrediting all Gazans who are independently documenting what is happening to them. It narrows the perspectives we get.
So it limits the firsthand visual evidence coming directly from the people experiencing it. Creates a kind of information vacuum, maybe?
That's the danger, yeah. It potentially allows certain narratives to dominate simply because the challenging on-the-ground perspectives are systematically sidelined or viewed with suspicion.
Okay, so bringing this all together, what does this mean for us? When we're scrolling through news feeds, seeing these powerful images every day, how should we approach them now?
Well, it's really important to stress, again, what the source isn't saying. It's not undermining Mohammed Salem's work or intent. His photo is powerful, his recognition, as the source says, more than deserving. The critique is aimed squarely at the whole ecosystem that rewards and elevates decontextualized ahistorical images.
The system, not the individual photographer.
Right. Because when prestigious awards like World Press Photo pick one image out of millions, they're doing more than just saying, this is good photography.
Mm.
They're essentially teaching photographers everywhere what kind of work gets valued, what kind of story is considered award-worthy.
Mm.
And the source argues these choices reflect the views, the industry connections, the power structures of the judges, of the institutions themselves.
And that leads to favoring images that are...
Images that are easily commodifiable, as the source puts it. To reach that huge global audience, they often can't carry too much difficult context. That might just alienate people or challenge comfortable beliefs too much. So there's this tendency towards images that allow for broader, maybe more metaphorical interpretations, rather than ones that hit you with an uncomfortable specific truth that might demand, actual engagement or action.
Wow. So this whole deep dive, looking closely at just one photograph, really opens up massive questions. It's a stark reminder that every image exists in a context. And the choices made, cropping, framing, selection, they profoundly shape how we understand things, how we see history, reality.
Right. It really encourages you listening to be more critical consumers of images, especially the ones labeled iconic or that win awards. Ask yourself, why this specific photo out of countless others taking? And think about those uncomfortable set of truths, as the source calls them, about how media and awards shape narratives, often by what they choose not to show.
So maybe the question to leave everyone with is this. What stories are being cropped out of your view, literally metaphorically, every day? And how might that be shaping your understanding of the world, your place in it? And maybe crucially, what actions might you feel compelled to take if you actually saw the full, uncropped picture? Lots to think about there. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.